Hi, Heather here from Creative Kiwi. Please join me on this video watching how we create a large applique horse's head. In full disclosure, I've got the flu at the moment, so my voice sounds funny and croaky. Hope you can hear me. And the other side of it is I'm not a horse person, so please forgive any artistic license in my fabric choices. The samples I've done are just fabrics that I thought looked together. And the multi-hooping version, you can customize the fabrics to suit, use realistic colors, or have fun with fabric combinations. I'm going to get straight into it. So all these designs are done on 2 layers of fabric type water-soluble stabilizer, and I use pins at the edges just to ensure minimal movement in the hoop. As I said, I used 4 colours in my designs. With the multi-hooping one, you could use a variety, or just stick with the 4. I use a thin bedding. If you wanted to make it a 3D one, you could use a heavier bag bedding on the back. You'll find more details in the written step-by-step instructions about fabrics and choices with backing. So let's get into the first segment. So we do the same process on all of them, which is to stitch your first colour, which is the outline of the segment. Then we add a piece of batting over the outline, and that stitches around twice to give you a nice cutting edge and gives you where, for instance, this piece you've got 3, or you could use 3 different fabric choices. And we do this with every segment. So I show it here for maybe the first 2, and after that I just summarise. So once we've cut away that batting, we start adding our fabric pieces. For my sample, I just used the 3 different fabrics on the front and a plain piece of fabric on the back. If you were making reversible, you would cut each bit individually. So what you did on the front, you would do on the back. As I say, for my one, I'm just putting a piece of fabric to protect it on the back of the hoop. Then we're doing our first fabric. So we're off to the machine and we just stitch the fabric in place. And we're just going to cut away that excess fabric. And as I say, if you wanted, you could just do 1 piece of fabric for this portion. I'm just showing the different options you could do. So there we're attaching the second piece of fabric. Again, it goes around twice just to give you that nice cutting edge. And we just trim away that excess fabric. When we guessed it, we've got the third piece of fabric. And we just attach. Now, because that's the last piece of fabric on for that segment, we're going to cut away the excess fabric on the front of the hoop and also the back if you've put a backing fabric. I mean, if you're just going to stitch your design straight to a blanket or a jacket or something, you could actually skip the backing fabric completely. So that's the fabrics done. Now we just look at the machine, and I just use the 1 colour thread. It basically does a zigzag of the raw edges and then completes the second step detail. First piece done. Oh, you can see on there's what we call raw edges and the second stitch edge pieces. So you can cut close to the edge for the second stitch pieces where it's been pinched nicely. For the raw pieces, cut a bit closer because they're the areas we're going to actually join. So it makes it easier if you've cut as close as you can to those raw edges. Now we're just going to follow the same procedure for the next 4 hoopings. So we've got segment 2. So we've done the placement line on the stabilizer. Now we're adding the bedding. and just marking the different fabric lines, which again, there are 3 options for this one. Then you could do one piece of fabric only if you prefer. We're going to cut away that beating. If you're putting backing fabric on the back, you put that on the, tape that on the back of the hoop, and then we're just doing our fabric placements again. And this is the actual fabric colours are in the instructions. So I'm just going to trim away that edge. Now the next piece of fabric. Then we trim away the edge. And then our last piece of fabric. And again, because that's the final piece, we're going to take the hoop away from the machine and we're going to cut away the fabric on the front and the back. Right, the next step is what we call the zigzag before the join. So I just use the brown thread again, and it's just going to zigzag the raw edges, but it does leave where we've got no zigzag is generally where you join a design. So it just gives you an idea of where to place the designs. Right, so now we're going to put the piece we've already done against this piece in the hoop. And you can see where the zigzag is. I've just got that one raw edge. And you're going to tape in place outside the stitch lines. That's basically to get the design through to the machine. And we're going to do our joining stitch. Now the main thing to look at is when you've done the stitch is that both sides are joined. So just have a quick look and make sure the zigzag has covered both sides. And if it has, just back into doing the final single stitch detail. And again, I use the same brown thread the whole way through. So that's part 1 and 2 done. Again, we've trimmed close to the edge for the second stitch edges, and we're stitching right on the edge for the raw pieces. We're going to join later. So on to the next segment, and we do the same thing. We do the placement line on the stabilizer. Then we add our bits of beating. And it again shows the 3 different fabrics you can use. We cut away our beating and place our backing fabric under the hoop, if you're using backing fabric. And then we're back into the fabrics, just placing one at a time. And again, it's really up to you how many different fabrics you use. If you want to make it very artistic with the different colours, or you can just use the one piece of fabric if you prefer. And there you go, we're just cutting away that excess fabric, and we're going to put the next fabric piece. And for the fabric pieces, it's as I say in the instructions, you just need pieces that are about an inch larger than your hoop. So for a 5x7, you would cut a piece of fabric 6x8. That's the most you would use in one hooping. And there we go, we're trimming the fabrics and placing the last fabric. Because it's the last piece, we then remove the hoop from the machine and we trim away the fabric on the front and the back. Then we're off to the machine to do the zigzag before the join. Now, the next bit's probably one of the harder joins. You can see, just like a jigsaw, there's actually fit in there. So you're just going to place your completed piece against the piece in the hoop or tape in place. And you'll see when I'm at the machine, I stop and start, just constantly making sure that the design's in the right place. Because the zigzag's just going to be on the edge of the first or the piece in the hoop. So it's how you place your fabric up against that will be the join. So you see there, I just starting on the left-hand side and we're doing the join. And as I say, I stop and start as I need to. I don't like stitching over tape, so I do remove it, but you can leave it in if you like. But just see, I'm just constantly making sure that everything is in the right place. It's certainly not a point that you want to walk away from your machine. You want to babysit the stitch. And once it's done, again, we just make sure that it's covered all the raw edges. And it has, so we're off just to complete the satin stitch. There we go, that's the third piece done. And again, just trim close to the satin stitch edges. But the raw edges where we're going to join later, you come closer, you take more time. Mm. Now we're on to the next piece. Same process. You do your placement line on the stabilizer, place your batting over the top. And again, the face, I've done 3 different pieces of fabric. You could just do 2 or 1, and you could do a totally one colour horse if you like. Completely up to you. Then we cut away the batting and just start placing our fabrics, or backing fabric underneath the hoop if you're using backing fabric. We just trim away that excess fabric. Add our second piece of fabric. Trim away the excess, then add our last piece of fabric. And because that is the last piece of fabric, at this point we take the hoop away from the machine or cut away the fabric on the front and the back. Then we're off to the machine again just to do the zigzag before the join. This join's a nice easy one. You can see where the zigzag ends and where you place your completed piece against the horse's head and tape in place. Some people prefer to use pins, just whatever works for you. There we go, back to the machine to do the join. Make sure it covers both edges. And then we're off to do the face details. And so the colours are all in the written instructions. So please do read the written instructions as well as watch the video. They go together. And the last piece is to do the brown thread and to do the second stitch detail. When that's done, we just remove from the hoop from the machine, and again, cut close to the second stitch edge, really close to those raw edges, like you're cutting right on the stitch line. It certainly makes it easier when you're joining the next piece, which is going to be the final piece. The same process, we do the outline on the stabilizer. There is a guide there if you wanted to make this a hanger. You could take the ribbon in place where that guideline is. And you put your beading over the top of the hoop. And that stitches that placement line for your two colours for this one. You cut away your beading, place your backing fabric under the hoop, and then place your first fabric. Now the second piece of fabric is just going to be the ear that sort of goes between those two. You can trim away that inner area, or I just placed the fabric over the top. If you were using bulky fabric or fur or something like that, you'd definitely cut away the excess, but you don't need to if it's just cotton. And then we're just going to cut away the fabric on the front and the back of the hoop. We're off to do the zigzag before the join. And we're going to do that last join. Which again, you can see just like a jigsaw, you can see how everything is aligned together. And I used quite a few pieces of tape on this one. As I mentioned, you certainly, when you're at the machine, you want to start and babysit the stitch. So you can see there, I'm just making sure that first piece is in line. And then I stop. And I'm just realigning as I go. Remembering the zigzag's just going to zigzag along that raw edge of the design in the hoop. So it's how you have your piece placed against that. That makes the join work. I'm going to say stop and start as you need to. And that's it. That's the last join done. And now you're just off to do just that final second stitch. You're finished. So for the last time, just trim away that excess stabilizer from the edges. And they're all covered in second stitch, so it's just close to the edge. Now, to remove all traces of that stabilizer, just use some hot water and a Q-tip, and it will remove it. Okay, so this is where I think the beauty of our large appliques are. You've now got your finished design, and you can put that anywhere on a cushion or like this, the denim jacket. Um, if you're hooping that, you'd be worried that you couldn't put sew over the edges, or that you might get it in the wrong place. Whereas because you've already made the design, you can put that anywhere you like on your jacket. So there you go. And it's that simple. You basically pin it place where you want, then you take it off to the machine and just stitch it down. So just there there is a one hooping version that I'm just showing there, and the same design, my 5x7 one on a pillow. We've got the finished jacket and the same idea on a tote bag. Now they're both the 5x7 size, or same size as the 10x16 one hooping. Obviously, the bigger sizes you could put onto quilts. They're gorgeous as a central panel on a quilt, or even just on a duvet blanket. Can't wait to see what you make.